And she texted me, went, "Mom, take that down. That's a hideous photograph." I refused, and she reported me to Instagram for bullying. And I had my page taken down. Hello, I'm JoJo Sutherland, stand-up comedian, allegedly. Comedian, actor, writer, bullshitter, and I am on the Chronicles of Podcast with the fabulous Jamie and Tom.
I am getting plenty of dates. Yeah, mainly from the NHS.
Hello world, Wednesday 13 here.
Hey, this is Tom Stade.
Hello everybody, I'm Ronnie Ledrew.
Yes, my friends, my name's John Mahon.
What's going on, everybody? It's Tom.
And it's Jamie. Welcome to the Chronicles of Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, nays and thems, this week we are back with a brand new interview. This week's guest is an award-winning stand-up comedian. She has toured all over the world with acts like Jonathan Pye and even former guest Tom Stade. When she's on stage, no one is safe, especially her kids, it seems. She's fearless, she's funny, and most importantly to Tom, she's Scottish. Put your hands together for the Chronicles of JoJo Sutherland.
Hey. I'm going to clap myself. I always love the introductions because I didn't know what you were going to say. And I sort of halfway through, I'm going, "Oh, who are they introducing? They sound great." And then I go, "Oh, they're shit."
I mean,
oh yeah.
well, just back in the day. How's your personal Friday been, Jojo? What have you been doing yourself today?
What have I done today? Do you know what? Fuck all and lots of it. It's really, I've gone and done the antithesis of what everybody else is doing today because I am literally just outside Edinburgh and the Edinburgh Fringe has kicked off officially. I was in Edinburgh yesterday and I did a gig at the Pleasance Courtyard and went and saw a show and went and seen a couple of shows actually. But today I've been in Dunfermline and I knew I had a couple of things because I've set up something called the Comedy Army, where I'm organising basically Live Aid but with comedy. It was an accident. I'll get to it. But yes, I knew I was recording this. And also I'm going to Paisley to do a gig for Des McLean. So I'm having that sort of one day off, one day on Ed Fringe experience. And I think so. I mean, it's only day 2, but I've nailed it. That balance.
I noticed with Dunfermline, it's just hills. No matter where you go, you're just going up every time.
Well, in Edinburgh, it's like that. Dunfermline, it's everywhere in Scotland hilly. We're just a hill. Scotland's just a hill of all descriptions and mountains and nevises and Monroes and all kinds. So it's like it kind of explains Scottish people, isn't it? Just it's a constant battle, uphill battle, being Scottish living in Scotland.
I love it. So, Jojo, how we like to start these things is we like to take things right back to the beginning, back when you were growing up, a young little Miss Sutherland, you could say. What did you want to be when you were growing up? Was it airplane driver, doctor, whatever it might be?
Well, funnily enough, and it is, I did record my special on Radio 4 and I admitted it there and I'll admit it to you. I grew up, I wanted to be working class.
Okay.
I honestly, I thought it was a job because I was, it's slightly sort of a misnomer. I grew up in aristocracy. My parents lived in a castle, but we were skint. But, you know, what skint is relevant. Do you know what I mean? The underfloor heating didn't work, darlings. So there's, there's skint and there's skint. But I was always, and you'll find this with most comedians, and that's what I love about us lot. We're all sort of a bit of an outsider in some way or form. And I always felt a bit of an outsider to the aristocratic lifestyle because I went to the local primary school. You know, my mates were all, lived in council houses. And, that was my environment as a child, even though my actual accommodation was a castle and I had a bedroom that was in a 70-foot tower with a 4-poster bed. So it's which sounds very glamorous, but just to make the viewers not hate me, we did get evicted out of the castle. We moved into a caravan. So them's the breaks and karma.
It's what you want if you listen to people up in crap. Like that's.
I
Or is
absolutely
that
nailed
too?
it. I've always, yeah. No, I started at the top and I've steadily worked my way down, and I've absolutely nailed it. Nailed it.
I've just got this image now of your parents being like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" Whereas you're like, "Yes, mission accomplished."
Oh, yeah, I was genuinely thrilled. I was like, this is great. I said, because all my mates always wanted to come and stay at the castle, and there was a loch and a billiards room and all. And I was like, no, I want to come and stay in your house because you've got central heating and food. So, yeah. I had a very eccentric upbringing, but it was, I joke about it, but it was, my parents were great, but they were bonkers. So, yeah.
I just love it. Like, how many people can say they grew up in a castle? It's great.
I know.
So,
It is a dim and distant memory now, I have to say.
so where did that love of comedy and performance come from then? Were your parents like performers or anything like that? Or?
My dad was a writer, and I think, it was a very sort of bohemian, very sort of artistic, creative, it's a little bit like Schitt's Creek, if you like. And it's that sort of posh but not cunts, and they do exist. They do exist, so
Oh, fucking superb.
I'll take word for it.
yeah, no, definitely. And it's that thing of going, and I was a show off. I was the youngest of 7, so I think I was showing off more to get attention and just like, look at me. And my parents were just really encouraging. There was nothing was off limits, and I think that is a sort of upper class sort of, you can do anything, darling, but not in that sort of entitled way. It was just like, yeah, just go, if you've got a mad idea, follow it. And I always kind of did want to be an actor, and showing off and acting seemed to be the thing. But there was just a lot of laughter. That comedy's just always been a massive feature in my life growing up, against all the odds. So despite the sort of postcard of grow up in a castle, there was, like everybody's life, it doesn't really matter your background. Everybody goes through shit, and you can't get away from people committing suicide or people dying, regardless of your upbringing or how much money you've got. So yeah, there was a few tragedies and things like that, and I just remember that every time something pretty awful happened, my dad would laugh. It was just like, or would make light of the situation. And so I kind of definitely did learn it from him. And then I was ill. I actually had a brain hemorrhage, and so which was a genetic fault in my brain. And I was 34 when I had a brain hemorrhage, and then I was married at that point and had kids, and yeah, just not a very good marriage. And saw an advert when in the List magazine, which is still going, for a stand-up comedy course at Strathclyde University. It was a 10-week course. I was on income support at that point, do you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, it'll be a really good way to get back into acting, and they'll be able to, because people do revere comedy as an art form, even though it's not recognized as an art form, which we're trying to do something about. But most actors be like, oh my God, I could never. And yourself, it's like people will constantly say, oh, I could never be a stand-up comedian. Oh, I could never do it. Oh, you're so brave. And I just was like, oh, it'll look really good on my acting CV. And then I did this course, and literally that was 25 years ago. I did a 10-week course it wasn't with VivG, but VivG still runs that course. It was a guy called Charlie Ross. And funnily enough, Des McLean, whose gig I'm doing tonight, and I gig for him quite a lot, he was one of the comedians that came in to talk to us, on the course. We were like, oh my God, it's Des McLean. And so, yeah, I did that, and literally did my first ever gig. And it felt like I was coming home. It was like, oh, it just felt, when people say to me, do you get nervous when you go on stage? I'm like, no, that's where I go to relax. That's my me time. I feel completely, people talk about safe spaces. That's where the kids can't phone me. That's where, I can call people cunts. It's just like, I can drink. used to be able to smoke back in the day. You'd go on stage with a pint of lager and a fag and just let out whatever had pissed you off for the day and have a rant. And that's kind of how I started before I learned how to write jokes. I just went on and fucking emptied my brain out. But bleh, and that.
I had slept very well that same evening.
Oh, I sleep like a baby. People go home traumatized. But oh,
So, so was it like the brain hemorrhage sort of made you go like, I've had a really close call here. I need to follow my dreams. Was it that sort of thing that happened?
kind of, yeah. I think when you do have any kind of sort of near-death experience, which it definitely was, the percentage of people that survive a brain hemorrhage, I think is something like 7%, or certainly have, you know, additional needs are left, you know, with symptoms of blindness or, you know, paralyzed or things. So, I mean, the fact that I've made a full recovery was extraordinary. And you do just, without realizing it, reevaluate what you're going to get stressed about. Do you know what I mean? Some things just become like, couldn't give a fuck, you know, and yeah, it sounds really wanky, but you just kind of do prioritize what you really do when you're kind of going, shit, I might die and I haven't got a will, and who's going to look after the kids? And you run through when I really did think I wasn't going to survive it, when I found out that's what had happened and they, you know, there's nothing they can do. You do go into sort of panic mode, not about yourself, weirdly. I wasn't actually worried about dying. I was kind of pretending that, don't be silly, of course I won't die, I'm too special. But I did think I need to make provisions. And then that's what for the first time, you really focus on what is important. And, you know, what somebody said on a Facebook post, or not that Facebook existed then, but, you know, what somebody said on a forum, or what somebody had said in a green room or whatever, you kind of go, that was not what was in my mind. It was like, who's going to look after the kids? What's going to happen to, you know, how my brothers and sisters going to take it? You know, you just think about the people you care about. And yeah, and the fact that I didn't have enough money to buy a multi-million-pound house wasn't on the list of things that I was worrying about on my near deathbed. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
So you mentioned earlier, like you did your training, you went out there. Like, can you remember your first gig?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I got one laugh, and that was enough. I got one laugh. Yeah. I remember, in fact, I found it because I've kept notes of everything. I've got books and books and books of just, because my brain I just think of things like a blah, 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 and I write down words or sentences or ideas. And I found, but when I first did that routine, fucking shut up, JoJo. But I wrote it down word for word. I wrote down word for word a series of sentences, and it was kind of like the first routine I ever did, and I've got it written somewhere, and it's mad to look at it because it's so scripted. I learned it to within an inch of its life, that first routine for the comedy course. And then afterwards, and we, as part of that course, we were taken to see a comedian. Well, we went to see Des McLean, actually. And it was that thing, I was just like, incredible just watching him. He was just so improvised. But then I took my husband the next night and he did it exactly the same. And I was like, oh, fuck. It's a script. And so it was that thing that was part of the course, and we had to have a script. And I immediately rebelled against it after the course had finished. So the first gig I did, I was like, well, that's just cheating, having a script. And so the next gig I did, I just improvised, and wasn't as good. It wasn't. It was kind of, but it took me a long time to find that sort of, because I'm still a bit, I don't like completely scripted. I know I like having bullet points and knowing what I'm going to talk about, but you kind of do you have to have the script so that you learn it within an inch of its life and then you unlearn it and then it becomes conversational? And then you can add other bits. And when things just pop into your mind on stage, it's getting back to your authentic self. And it is that kind of just bungee jumping. And took me fucking years to find it. But now I do. I love just a lot of the time just going on stage, and I might talk about the kids. I might not. I might literally talk about having, been an hour late because I was stuck on the M6 and it was a fucking car park. And, so I love the freedom of comedy because you can fuck about.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, where'd you get like your inspiration for your jokes and everything else? But I think, like you just said, then it's just whatever comes to you at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like style wise, so it's my fault again. I think it's the delay. But like, how do you find like your comedic style in a way, or do you even have like one?
I think it is. I said because everyone sort of has a persona, and I think mine's sort of badass mum. But that has kind of weirdly mellowed, in as much as my kids are grown up now, so I don't have the same relationship with them that I did when I first started doing comedy. They were small children, and I was a frazzled mother trying to juggle all kind, a marriage and a house and kids and comedy and travel, and so the things that were affecting me then were much more frantic and furious and fuck this and kids are an arseholes. But whereas now, I think I like to think that I do change with the times. I do still live in the moment as to what's going on around me. And because, and you said you had Tom Stade on, he's my absolute guru. Do you know what I mean? Tom, he's just brilliant. And I did record a special that was on YouTube. And it's like, if I ever get to be anywhere as good as Tom Stade, because he's fearless and but I mean, he has all the same hang-ups and vulnerabilities as we all do, but there's just something different about Tom. I watched him, and we were talking about this the other night. He'll go and try new material, like he'll go on stage at Monkey Barrel or Stand or new act night to try 5-10 minutes, and it'll be dog shit, right? There'll be maybe one good bit, but and the audience isn't going with it, and it's not going well, and he sticks with it, and it's like, oh, it's painful. And then you see that cunt 3 weeks later with the same stuff, and it is absolutely golden. And he just has an idea in his head, and he just goes out and does it. And it doesn't matter if it bombs. He hones it, and he thinks about it, and it's just a change of a word. And I mean, Tom and I spend hours literally dissecting one word, so madness. But he's the absolute master of it.
Yeah, he's wonderful. We do love Tom. I think we've had him on like 3 times. He's just
Yeah.
so funny. So funny. But you mentioned there, like, you are known for being the badass mom, for talking about your kids. I was like, as a parent, I was howling watching some of these clips talking about your kids. I was like, fuck, I wish I could say some of this about some of mine sometimes. But what do they think about it though?
Well, do you know what? It's a really good question because sort of early on, especially my youngest, Finn, who gets the most of the bullshit, she gets it, hammers at it. It's that thing where, and I do the joke about her about Instagram, where, I take it, and this is true, I took a photograph of them, and then she messaged, and I put it on Instagram saying, Happy International Women's Day. And she texted me, went, Mom, take that down, that's a hideous photograph. I refused, and she reported me to Instagram for bullying. And I had my page taken down. Genuinely true. I didn't have my page, but I had the post taken. It was removed because there'd been a complaint from her about bullying, and they don't need any evidence anyway. But she was the one incident because she's the youngest generation. So the older 3, they're the millennials, but Finn's a Gen Z, and actually she's the internet generation. They're the ones that have never known a world without the internet. And their demand for consent and information, they're much more savvy and they've way more information at that age than I ever did. Do you know what I mean? We didn't have Google, we didn't have, BBC One and bloody the Times newspaper. So you just couldn't, your parents could lie with complete impunity, and you couldn't check it up unless you went to the library, and who could be fucked doing that? So so the youngest one, she's always kind of challenged me. So I have got better at actually asking their permission about things that I talk about them on stage with. Mainly her, because she does get really nippy with me. But the older three, they all, you know what, they're comedy kids. So it's all based in truth. Sort of all the stories that I tell about Gilla and, Minge Watch and all this kind of stuff. It's all based on what actually happened. But like any good comedian, it's exaggerated. And so my children are exaggerated. The stories I tell about my children, they're exaggerated versions of my kids. In the same way, I'm an exaggerated version of who I am. I'm not like that. Well, I kind of am like that, but it's storytelling, it's exaggeration, it's effects. So there's truth in it, but that's the beauty of comedy. You get to put words into people's mouths and put them in places and situations that might not necessarily have happened, but the whole premise of it is real. But yeah, so the kids, and I think the youngest one now particularly, because it's her mom. So it's like anything, people, they can separate JoJo Sutherland, the comedian, to mum at home. And I think it's when they're pals, when I sort of did on Instagram and stuff and followers, and not people recognize me on the street, but sometimes, but their friends know who I am and they think I'm cool. And so I think it's that thing where Finn's like, my pals think you're really cool. So I think she can sort of see it from a different perspective as well now. And again, they can compare, going, oh, that's really funny about Finn. We know she's not that bad. So she's actually quite a nice kid.
That Gilla joke fucking broke me. I could not. I was howling at that. So funny.
So there you go. There's a perfect example. It's not me driving the car. It was my husband. I wasn't even there, and it was my son, and they were driving. So that story has grown, but it definitely was somebody. They were driving south, and it was sort of someone had written down the directions on a piece of paper, and so Rory was sort of reading them out. He was like 11 or something. He's just reading these, amongst us, like, right, what's next? What's there? Gilla, where the fuck is Gilla? But yeah, completely true. So
super. So obviously, I know you say like a lot of your material is based on real life, but when it comes to actually writing material, do you have a process? Is it like dark and candlelit room, music on sort of thing, or is it just you got a notebook or apps on your phone when an idea pops into your head?
There's probably about 3 different ways. There's stories that just happen. Do you know what I mean? Just a funny thing happened to me, and that I tend to, because I MC quite a lot, so I do MCing or I'll do a set. I use MCing to tell the audience literally what's just happened. If something funny's happened, I'll tell the audience, and by just saying it out loud, it's really fresh. It's just the same way you would with your friends in the pub. So then if it gets a laugh, I think, oh, there's something in that, and then I'll kind of, sort of mull that over when I'm driving home and go, oh yeah, actually then I could do that. I could put them in that place. And so you can add characters to things. So that's one way, is when I'm MCing, literally something that's just come out, or something that does come out naturally, which is, I always say to comedians, even though I hate listening to myself back, especially when you starting new, record everything, because you will say something in the moment on stage that's really funny, and the minute you come off stage you go, what did I say? What is that? And it's gone. It's gone. So if you record it, it's really good. Tom Stade and Gareth March, who I don't know if you know, is my son-in-law. He married my daughter, and Gareth does Tom Stade's tour support, because nepotism is alive and well. So and also he's a very good comic. It's not nepotism at all. He's a fucking great comic. But Tom, Gareth, and I quite often, the three of us, will just have a session where I've got an idea and I know there's something in it, you know. And so we sort of take turns. It's like, you know, I'll sort of say, right, I've got this idea and I've got that, and then we riff with it. Tom will say something outrageous, and then Gareth will say something, you know, that kind of goes with that outrageous, and and we go round with each other and just tag each other or top and tail or give another sort of perspective to it. So, and I think the three of us together work really well because the gender difference, the age difference, the experience difference, but we've all got a sort of real sense of silliness. And Tom's so dark, and I'm pretty dark actually, but not. It's a different kind of dark. It's weird. And Gareth is just so silly. I mean, he brings out the child in both of us. So, so that quite often happens, that you just bounce ideas with someone. And then when I'm writing a show, then when I'm writing something, because it's a structure, beginning, middle, and end, and it's more like writing a book or a play when you write a show, that then it is I do write differently, and I do literally sit and write jokes, which I can't do for a set, and I don't know why. I just can't. So for a show, I can write jokes, but I can't for a set. It's very odd that the mind works differently for me.
It's very odd. But you know what? You've been doing this long enough now. I think you know what you're doing, so I won't worry too much.
I'm not convinced, mate. I'm really not. Every day I just go, who fucking told you were funny, you daft bitch? You're only as good as your last gig. That's the other thing. I do always think it's like, that blows my mind. You can have a fantastic gig and you just absolutely smash it out of the park, and then you can do pretty much the same set the next night, and people just look at you just going, who thinks that funny? And that doesn't happen with alarming regularity like it used to, but but yeah, it's I still find it really, you see some of the best acts still now just not get the response that you've seen it absolutely kill in a room. And then it's odd. So yeah, you are only ever as good as your last gig, or as bad. I think it's Catherine Ryan on her Twitter. She's got a brilliant thing saying stand-up comedian. Absolutely hilarious or absolutely terrible, depending on who you ask.
I love Catherine. I think women
Do you
in
know what I mean?
comedy has grown so much over the last 10 years, maybe. Like, do you still think there's a massive divide there, or do you think women are getting way more involved now and being, you know, like especially on TV and whatnot?
I think the boys are getting a bit of a fright at the moment. Not that it's the boys' fault. It's like turning a tanker. That comedy is one of those things that you've been told forever that women aren't funny, and clubs would only book one woman, and so women were sort of set against each other. When I first started, it's like, you know, if you saw the woman on a bill, you're like, oh well, fuck that's it. I can't do the frog, or I can't do that. Do you know what I mean? There's only one woman on the bill, so you were always sort of, there was only one place for one woman, so you were competitive with each other. But in terms of, I've always said that audiences will assume a man is funny until he proves otherwise. They will assume that a woman is unfunny until she proves otherwise. So funny's funny. So it really is a level playing field once you've got there, if you see what I mean. But women do tend to, just because of judgment, because in the first 30 seconds people will judge you. That, I mean, I remember going on stage before I had even been introduced, somebody saw it was a woman. Oh fuck, it's a woman. I haven't even been introduced. I haven't even opened my mouth. So we've always been coming from one step back. And again, I think it's a sort of psychological or whatever, but I've just always loved that challenge. I've always had that, I'll fucking show you. You think I'm not funny? I'll fucking show you. And if you look at women that are like, you know, Jo Caulfield, Zoe Lyons, Janie Godley, R.I.P., JoJo Smith, Kerry Godliman, you know, just all of these phenomenal women that just wouldn't, Jane Mackay, just wouldn't take no for an answer, just like, fuck off, I'm funny. And then just, you know, and I think that has led to sort of more, but you know, people like Catherine Ryan, who's absolutely brilliant. I definitely dressed like, you know, sort of big hair and on with a pint and sort of went on with quite a mask. A lot of these us women from that time, sort of masculine energy. Whereas I really love watching women who have that feminine energy, but are just as fierce. But you know, but also yeah, I think it's one of those things with comedy. You've either got it or you haven't. Do you know what I mean? And you can either do it, you can't do it. And I really am against the you've got to have women on, you've got to have this on, you've got to, yeah, you've got to have funny fuckers on. And there's always been funny fuckers in this business. We used to go, like when Jonglers was a thing, the Glee, in Birmingham, I used to laugh. You'd meet up, comics would be there for the weekend. You'd do the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday, and you'd see who was on at the other clubs. We'd all meet up and have a Sunday roast or go for a pint. And I used to just sit sometimes and think, people must look at us and go, how the fuck do they know each other? And this is, I'm genuinely, Chris McCausland, blind. Tanya Lee Davis, little person. Junior Simpson, black. Me, you know, Vladimir McTavish, fucking ancient. You just go in, how do they, or a young kid, just this group of absolute misfits. And that was it. It's, you know, Jonglers, for all its faults, I mean, those lineups were so diverse. So it's, and I'm not saying that there isn't, you know, an issue with booking women and booking diverse acts. But I think we've slightly tipped over into that being the first reason to book, rather than looking at actually what the material is. Because I've seen, you know, you could have, you know, 4 blind people on, but they're all talking about being blind. Fucking dull.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Same as having 4 women on. Do you know what I mean? It's or 4 straight white blokes. I get it, but it's that thing. So it, in terms, that's the industry. That's not the comics. You know,
Yeah.
so the industry and the system has to change, and it has, and like everything, it has, the pendulum has to swing so far. But I definitely think, and I had a really good conversation with Jason Manford, and he made a really good point. The difference between male comics and female comics, women haven't had enough of an opportunity to fail, because as soon as a woman has a bad gig, it's like, oh fuck, all women are shit, rather than she had a bad gig. You know, if a bloke has a bad gig, it's not like all men are shit. And so I think we have been grouped as, you know, and the pressure on women to be funny, it's like the boys don't have that same pressure, because they don't go out to an audience that assume that they're going to be shit. And I think that's, and again, actually, even in terms of diversity, people don't assume that disabled people are going to be shit, or black people, but they do assume women are going to be shit. So women very much have had the kind of, you know, on the back foot for a long time.
Absolutely. But the only diversity there should be in
If you're a woman and disabled, you're fucked.
So real
well done, Rosie Jones.
Yeah, that's it. I couldn't think of a name then. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know,
the only diversity that should be paying attention to is the difference in jokes, like you say, because that's the important thing. The funny is what's important. Like, yeah. But the one thing you sort of touched on it earlier, saying that, you know, you can have jokes that hit one night and completely miss another night. That's part of what I love about stand-up comedy, is the unpredictability of it, because you just don't know how that room's going to react. Does that make you nervous at all, or just like fucking bring it?
Yeah, I mean, it does now, bring it. And actually, sometimes I really love it when it dies in its ass. I'm like, oops. Ooh, that didn't work. But there is, but that again, because I love comedy so much, but that's it. We are canaries down the mine. We are pushing buttons. We are, you know, treading on eggshells to a degree. But that's the beauty of it. And I think we're in danger of losing that, as much as like I said, going back to, you know, my first earliest memory of laughing, it was laughing at a funeral, and you just going, because it wasn't because we were happy that someone had died, but it's that release that people have. And I think that's what comedy gives people. And like I say, with the cost of, especially in the cost of living crisis and wars all around the world and everything that's going on, the idea that we can't just laugh about it, we're not laughing at it, we're not, we don't tell jokes to make other people feel bad, we tell jokes to make ourselves feel better. And I think we're losing sight of that, in as much as, you know, it's not cancel culture, it is people just being sensitive to hearing. It's like, it didn't happen to you, or it did happen to you, tough shit, you know. And I think a lot of the things that I talk about on stage, if I can laugh about it, I'm sure as fuck you can, you know. Don't not laugh on my behalf. And yeah, it is, I think we need to just remember, Mark Twain has that quote, the humanity's laughter is the humanity's most effective weapon. Do you know what I mean? If we've got to be able to laugh at things, because it's what keeps us grounded, it's what keeps perspective. And, you know, if you lose the power to laugh, you do lose the ability to think straight. And it's, you know, just that release. And God, fucking being miserable is miserable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Boring.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's that old expression? If you don't laugh, you'll cry. So
Yeah,
laugh.
yeah,
It's much more fun.
Yeah. But I don't know what it is about people now. And again, I'm sure they've got perfectly good reasons, but, you know, somebody's coming to a comedy club and saying, "Oh, you talked about such and such," you know, and that triggered me. It's like, well, I don't get up and go into a comedy club and think, if I talk about this, you know, Simon from Solihull might be in and lost his cat. And you know what I mean, I cannot take all of that into consideration. And like I say, we don't. And it's, you know, I know Andrew Lawrence got cancelled recently, and nobody has to book anyone. They really don't. But it's that same, it just reminded me of Billy Connolly, and he made a very, very inappropriate joke 30 years ago about Ken Bigley being beheaded. And it was, I mean, it was like, ouch, fucking hell, too soon. And, you know, when is too soon? But the reaction, interestingly, 30 years later, is a sign of the times, that it's just everyone just going, no, 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 you absolutely can't. You're going, if we can't say anything, then, well, let's all just sit at home and shut the fuck up then, because, you know, seems daft. But that's not what people want. People want to laugh. And we know they all laugh because they're all doing it privately in WhatsApp groups.
Yes. It just seems to be public forums where people are offended by everything. But when you're talking amongst your mates, oh, you're loving it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we just need to get, I think you need to be nicer to people in private.
And you brought it up at the very beginning of the interview, and I think we should definitely talk about it. The comedy army is something that's just magically appeared. Like, what is this? What is it? How much can you divulge?
Wow. Yes, I think, do you know what? From Little Acorns, genuinely, and it still is, it's a gig on the 8th of October. But how it came about, I'll give, do you want the absolute truth or the version that the media are going to get?
Go for the absolute truth, JoJo. Let's go all in. Yeah.
Okay, so 3 years ago, I fucked a man in a tent in Glastonbury, right? So
okay. We're off.
The official story is that I lost my keys at Glastonbury, which I did as well, and we had to smash the window to get in. However, right, so being sensible. But yeah, this really nice guy, who's still a mate, James, and he was there with his cousin Debs. And when they left Glastonbury, so I was performing at the cabaret tent, and when we left on the Monday, I couldn't leave because I couldn't find my car keys and I had to smash it. James texted me and said, "Oh, look, Debs has left her boots behind the camper van. If they're still there and they fit you, you can have them." And I was like, all right. So I tootled off and got there. The boots were still there. They did fit me. And I texted James. I was like, bloody hell, yeah, they fit me and they're gorgeous. Do you know what I mean? They're clearly designer boots. And I said, you know, give me a number. I need to give her some money. He went, no, don't be so stupid. She's a designer. So she is Deborah Baker, Fiorentina and Baker. They've got this phenomenal shop in Shoreditch, a factory in Italy. She's a boot designer to the rock stars. Absolutely amazing who you meet at Glastonbury. So I basically said to her, look, well, if I can't give you money, whenever I'm in London, I'll let you know, and you can have free tickets to shows that I'm on. And so that kind of was our arrangement. I'd always just kind of see them when I was in London. So 8th of October last year, I'd said to them, I'm at Backyard in London, if you and Franco want to come along. She said, yeah, no, that'd be great. She said, actually, I've just had a bit of an idea, you know, sort of maybe do a charity gig, sort of marketing idea, sort of bit of a gimmick. Do you want to come to the shop and I can run it by you? So I went to the shop. And basically, they gave me a free pair of boots and said, we want to do a charity night, stand up in our boots for. And I immediately, because I'm pathological, I just can't bear seeing people asleep on the street or on the street. Just in this day and age, it just blows my mind. Yeah. So I said, all right, we'll stand up in our boots to help people off the street and back on their feet. That was it. I went to the backyard, I spoke to Dan, and I said, can we do a charity night? This is Debs and Franco. And he's like, yeah, no worries. When do you want to do it? And I was like, oh, let's do it a year from now. Let's save the date, 8th of October, 2025. So I did the gig that night. Franco was there. He did a sort of bit of footage. I made an announcement, basically announced stand up in our boots. And then coming back to Scotland, I was on the train and I was like, well, if it's a bit of a gimmick, then maybe I could just book comedy clubs. It took me 20 minutes to book Aberdeen to Brighton. I've got all the Glees, all the stands, Hot Water, Frog and Bucket, Bath Comedia, Forge Brighton, Dan Backyard. So that's the premise of it. So it's basically one gig, one mission, one cause. So stand up in our boots to help people off the street, but it's just grown arms and legs. And so the comedy army, because every time I mentioned it, I'd have an idea and then somebody say, oh, that's a good idea. Well, we could do that as well. And Fiorentina, so we're going to have a prize draw. So Fiorentina makes the prize draw at every club, where somebody will win a pair of Fiorentina Baker boots. And it was just recognizing, the more I thought about it, it's a bit like the brain hemorrhage, where you really focus on what was important about, living my life. It's like the actual fact that comedy is comedians versus homelessness, that without comedy, there's so many people that suffer from mental health. We live in such a precarious industry. We live hand to mouth a lot of time. There's a lot of traveling. There's a lot of being on our own. There's a lot of mental health issues. But the only thing that really is the difference between being a stand-up comedian and being on the streets is comedy. And so it was the idea that everyone that's become famous, whether it's Sarah Millican or Mickey Flanagan or Kevin Bridges or Frankie Ball, everybody started, they did their first 5 minutes. They maybe did the open mic circuit, or they did a little bit more, or they did jonglers, but they worked their way. And most comics were in the belly of the beast for years. Mickey Flanagan was on the circuit doing all the things. All of them were. Bridges, Boyle, McIntyre. Everybody is a circuit comic at heart. And some go out the door to fame, some go off the circuit for a bit. They'll do a bit of tour support like I did for Jonathan Pye, or do a bit of telly. Some just drop out because they can't handle it. But some people literally drink themselves to death. And the thing that really struck me was Robbie Bonham, who was a phenomenal comic in Ireland. And I think he had a heart attack. He had so many mental health issues, but he had a heart attack. But his friends and family had to crowdfund for his funeral. And I was like, there is so little different. And it's basically, I'm asking every comic to come home for one day to raise money for people, because without comedy, it could be you. It's the reverse of the national lottery, innit? It could be you. And especially now, and I think the world's such a kind of fractious place, but essentially it's just one gig. But what I'm doing on the 18th of August is I'm doing a snapshot in Edinburgh at Meadowbank Stadium. I've got comedians versus homelessness football match. We're playing street soccer. Then we've got a workshop because we want to use comedy as a tool to aid mental health. So we're doing a Move by Laughter workshop. Then we're having a gala gig, and then we're having a film screening of Filth by Irvin Welsh. So yeah, so on the 8th of October, we've put on 14 gigs, but anybody's welcome if they want to put on a gig on the 8th of October and give them money. We've got the Passage in London and Simon Community Scotland. The work they do with people and homeless, the statistics are terrifying. If you look at the homeless population in Edinburgh, 100 people a night, just nowhere to even sleep. And particularly poignant at the moment that our city is filled up to probably about 1.5 million extra residents. And at the biggest arts festival in the world, with creativity and laughter and joy, that people are literally walking over the homeless and not even in their own city, they're not even recognised. So yes, so I'm doing a big event on the 18th of August to publicise the 8th of October. And I do want to do it around the world, but the announcements will be thick and fast, but you won't know who's at the comedy clubs. It'll be a secret. But yeah, Aberdeen to Brighton, stand up in our boots to help people off the street and back on their feet. Boom.
Incredible.
That is
absolutely. Oh, love it.
I can't just, but you know what? It's an idea, and it's and it might end up there'll be fucking 4 people at the gig. I've no idea. But if the goodwill and the amount of people that have come on board to make this happen is anything to go by, then yeah, and all anybody has to do on the 8th of October is I've basically accidentally organised Live Aid with comedy, or comic relief, but you don't have to bake a cake. You literally, all the audience has to do is go to a comedy club and have a laugh. But there will be the fact that it could be you, and I want to show a little film in each club. Every club there'll be a prize draw for to win these boots, but there's also be a short film, which won't be like, oh, Malala went to a well and there was no fucking water, boo hoo hoo. It will be, because it is. It's like because this isn't charity. It's about holding a mirror up to society and saying, don't patronize these people. Oh, well done us. We've given them a blanket and a sleeping bag. And oh, don't give them any money. Fuck off. This could be you. And it's about how we can make a difference using comedy and all these social prescribing, comedy on prescription. So we're doing all these comedy on prescription workshops and going into libraries and going into places that really use this effective kind of prevention method of using comedy workshops, using stand-up comedians who can talk about drug addiction and suicidal thoughts. But the whole idea is that we show a film. There's a guy, particularly a guy called David Tovey, who was a top-class chef, cooked, chef for the Queen, was in the military, was in a 5-star restaurant. And, chefs are a bit like comics, they like to, knock the drink and the drugs, and, they live a fairly kind of high octane life as well. And he had a stroke and then, lost his job, tried to keep doing it, then ended up homeless, sleeping in his car, absolutely had another stroke, just awful things happened to him, and suicide attempts. And he tried to kill himself in a park, and he was caught by somebody. He was trying to overdose with heroin. And from that, he did a sort of therapy workshop using art. And he's literally just had his exhibition shown at Saatchi and Saatchi in London with Prince William, who's the patron of the Passage. And it's just like, it is that thing of going, even with the shittest thing, that there is hope. And it is so that people who are, because I can't imagine it, but you just kind of go, when you've lost hope, you have lost everything. And if just getting enough money for funding for workshops, emergency relief, yeah, just literally fucking here's a bloody blanket to keep you warm. But if we can start providing, because all of these charities and all of these incredible places that are trying to create pathways, government funding doesn't exist. It's an and even less funding. That if we can create pathways that gives people hope, that just for an hour. I saw a guy at Tesco's just round from me. And I just hunkered down. He'd fallen out with his girlfriend, and he, stayed with his mate for a couple of weeks, and then his mate couldn't have him, and then he was just embarrassed. And I just wanted to be able to go, right, Mark, there's a bloody comedy workshop tomorrow. I'll come and get you. Come and have a laugh for a couple of hours and see, and just so that you're talking about things and laughing about things that everybody makes you feel guilty about, whether you've fucking gambled it or pissed it up against a wall or snorted it or injected it, whatever the reason. Do you know what I mean? They don't want to live like that. So yeah, sorry, I get really carried away, passionate about it. But yeah,
I love it.
So that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to change the system, really, and just make access for all. And if Edinburgh Festival wants to claim it's access for all, then I'm putting on an event that is literally access to all. So
you're doing an absolutely amazing thing. I think it's absolutely incredible. Like, what a glorious cause. And to use comedy to do it as well is even better. Absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
It'll be a laugh. If nothing else, it'll be a laugh. And if it fucking dies in its arse, I'll go and get pissed.
Well, there you go.
So win-win.
Absolutely is. Oh, Joe, you've done so much in your career. I feel like we've barely got to scratch the surface tonight. But there is one thing you did on TV I've got to ask about, because we discussed on our show, we discussed this the other day. Did I read you were on Wife Swap?
Yep, that was me. Actually, that was my show last year, was about that. Yeah. I wish you were my mum. Careful what you wish for. Well, yeah. I'm going to, and she can't, she's not here to defend herself, so I feel quite bad. But that was that fucking bitch, Janie Godley, got me into that. She genuinely, so they asked Janie to do it, and she was like, oh, absolutely no way, asked JoJo. So, and you know what? This is genuinely true. So I loved Wife Swap. I thought it was brilliant, absolutely amazing. But and they're the same people that make Faking It, or were. And when they phoned up, I was like, yeah, I really love your program, but we're not confrontational, blah, blah, blah. And this is the ego of a comedian. They were like, no, we're changing the format. This sort of, filthy, lazy, unfit mother thing that sort of died a death. And we're the same people that made Faking It. So they were trying to sort of basically change the format to Wife Swap, but you job swapped as well. So they swapped me with, and I genuinely did think, I was quite early on in my career, and I was like, quite good publicity, and it shows you how non-media savvy I was. I was like, I'll get to do my stand-up, and then she'll have to try stand up. I look amazing, total ego. But yeah, so they swapped me with a woman. So I'm a stand-up comedian, and she worked in a stand-up tanning salon. And that is the beginning, middle, and the end of the story. But she refused to do stand-up comedy. Of course she did. What fucking idiot would? So she collected glasses at the stand on a Thursday night, which is not what I do. I did her job. But it was, do you know, one of the most fascinating things I've ever done? And especially now, kind of as the world is, because thank fuck Twitter didn't exist, or Facebook. We would have been, the newspaper headlines were, I was filthy, lazy, unfit mother. Then, and when I've talked about it in the show, something like 348 hours of footage down to an hour. You can storyboard anything. And it's and it was just definitely, it was fascinating. I think everybody should go on do that, because you get taken out of your comfort zone, and they had loads of dogs and so there was just so much about it that was, when we watched the program, the kids were like, but Mum, the muffins couldn't have been trampled into the carpet because she bought the muffins. And it's just, the editing's brilliant, but it was mental. But thank fuck, because the judgment, and this is where it's really fascinating, actually, when you're saying about, what do my kids think about comedy? That was a really good lesson for them, because their mates at school and everything were like, oh, fucking hell, your house is manky. And Gordon Rudy's like, you fucking in my house. You're in my house saying about a television program. It's like, You know, it's not. That's bullshit. You know, so it's like people that we knew believed the program, going, but we're right here. You know that's not true. So from that perspective, it was fascinating. But yeah, thank fuck I didn't have to fight with anyone. Mind you, it's on YouTube now. And honestly, I look back on it, it's just hilarious. I'm really glad I did it though. So
We were discussing on the show, we were just like, why is this a thing? Like, who came up with the idea of getting people to swap partners for a week?
yeah,
It's so
I
weird.
know. It is, and it's sort of reality television, and but all that reality television stuff it really is that sort of just judging people from afar, isn't it? And looking in other people's houses, and you know, and it's completely storyboarding, and you can make anybody look good or look bad or look whatever. But yeah, it was interesting again when you talk about women in comedy. There was no pressure on the men to, you know, and the household manual was a thing that you were really duped, because the researchers would interview you and you'd answer the questions, and then you never got to see the manual, and the husbands never got to see the manual. And so everything I said, and I'm really glib and throwaway. So she was reading so it was sort of like a three steps removed, really, what she was reading, what I was reading. And then I would say, yeah, but it's in the manual. And I was like, yeah, but no, that's not what really happened. You know, so it's just a perfect recipe to just basically manipulate people. It's very clever and great telly.
Don't remember. I don't remember if I watched it. I just thought it was a meant. But like you say, why did they do husband swap? Or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or something like that. It's never the guys, always the ladies.
Yeah, and it was judging the women, and it was the women, you know,
Yes.
yeah, very,
Oh,
very.
you haven't cooked and you haven't cleaned and you have like, well, why don't you fucking do it?
Yeah. But also just people live different lives. I couldn't live her life and she couldn't live mine, but no one's fucking asking her to. Do you know what I mean? It's that thing. That's what the program was doing. It's like, well, you should live like her. I don't fucking want to live like her. That's why I live like this.
I am also insanely conscious of time, but I need to bring up. So how I was introduced to you, how I discovered you, was through the Jonathan Pye tours. My mum fucking loves him, and then fell in love with you at the same time, obviously because you're his main support. But she was like, "Oh my god, you got JoJo on Friday! Oh, tell her that I love her. She's so fucking funny." Like, I was like, "Mum, it's okay. We got this." It's like, do you just write my questions for me?
Oh, tell your mum I love her too. Oh, that's really nice to hear.
But obviously, how did this all come about then, being the main support? And obviously, with his shows and his stuff being more political based, were you worried about how the audience would react to you?
Yes and no. Because it was a very specific remit, really, and I don't know, should I tell? Because I wasn't always there to support him, and it was Andrew Doyle, and then they parted ways. And Tom is an actor, so not a stand-up comedian, although I do see him as a stand-up comedian, but he doesn't necessarily see himself as that. He sees himself as an actor first and foremost, and this character that he created. And so when Andrew Doyle and him sort of parted ways, I'd met Tom through Andrew. And so Tom wasn't really on the comedy scene, so he needed tour support, and he phoned me and asked me. And I was just like, if Andrew's cool about it, because I don't want to nick anyone's job, then fucking damn right. And so that's how it kind of came about. And again, I didn't know him particularly well. I loved it. I was like your mum. I fucking loved his stuff. I was obsessed. And this is before he went viral. And I just absolutely loved it. And the first night, and I was nervous because I didn't know him particularly well. He is very political, but he was nervous in as much as he's not a stand-up, he's very scripted. So he wanted me to, you know, to say cunt, to do something a bit political, but to make them laugh, warm them up, find out who was in the audience, basically age demographic. So I had a very, amongst my jokes, very specific remit of information that he wanted to get out of the audience through me. So that was kind of, so knowing that, and kind of, and tour support is that. No one's there to see you. So even if, as long as you're a bit not shit, then, you know, it's fine. So but the first night, and I was nervous, and and he plays big theatres, and the first night, and it went well, and I sort of was like, all right, okay, they did like me, and it was like he was happy with what I'd done. And the second night, I did okay, and he was still quite nervous, and his second show didn't go particularly well, and it was Birmingham. It was a fucking massive, that theatre there, huge theatre, and it didn't go particularly well. And he came, and so when I go on stage, I'd come off stage and I'd go and I'd go, right, there's, the majority over 50, they got the joke, or I can't say, oh, they're thick as fuck. No, but I would be like, they don't mind cunt. They did bulk a bit at that joke. And so, they're a bit sensitive about this, that, next thing. So I give all my feedback. So the second night I did that. And so we were getting on, but he didn't do particularly well. And he came off stage and he just looked and he went, what did you think? And I went, wasn't great, mate. And he honestly just looked at me and said, I fell in love with you. He's like, you just because I just didn't bullshit him. And he's like, I just knew as soon as you didn't bullshit me that we were going to get on really well. Because he was like, I didn't know how it was going to work. And he was like, oh, and I was like, that wasn't great, mate. And he just laughed because he was like, but yeah, that's what you need from a tour support, is you need someone to be honest with you and have your back. And because what he does for fucking an hour and a half is exhausting, really mentally taxing. So yeah, no, I love doing this tour support, and yeah, it's great. And I don't give a fuck if they like me or not, but they do tend to like me.
Yeah, well, we loved you. So we absolutely love it. And we're looking forward to doing it all over again whenever that, if there's another one again in the future, seeing you again, JoJo. Or if you tour yourself, might I add, I will. I
thought about that, and do you know what? Nah, I can't be asked.
No, that's fair.
No. Nah. No, it's just like doing the festival all year round, just looking at your ticket sales and going, oh, fuck, I've sold 20. Do you know what I mean?
So how was 2000 Trees?
Loved it. That was the first time I'd done it. And yeah. I'm sort of late to festivals. Again, sort of that was a misnomer. I remember Brett Vincent saying to me, because he got really pelted for not having enough women at, because he books truck and tram lines and altitude, and he got been given a hard time for not booking enough women. And I said to him, I fucking do it. And he's like, would you? Yeah, fucking absolutely. I said, you've got a bad rep for not booking women. He said, it's not that I don't book women. He said, I ask women, they just don't want to do it. And I was like, well, that's a different story then, isn't it? And I said to Jo Caulfield, I was like, have you not done breastfeeding? She said, absolutely not. I don't want to fucking stay in a tent. Fair enough. And so again, maybe ladies don't like camping, but I fucking love it. But yeah, so I was quite late to doing festivals, and I just adore it. I've done Glastonbury, truck, tram lines. I'm doing Kendal Calling on Sunday. Yeah, it's fabulous fun. So good. It's a good laugh. So yeah. Hopefully get back to tram lines. Not tram lines, Trees Festival.
Yes.
Which I thought was called the Cheese Festival at first.
2000 cheese.
I wish there was.
Yeah. I know. I'd have gone for that.
Yeah. Not in that heat, but I still would have had it.
Oh, yeah, good point.
That was. I was annoyed that I hadn't organised to stay over, but I had to be back in Scotland the next day. But yeah, no, it was such good. And again, just the atmosphere, and a lot of it is to do with, because Richard, just the way that you're treated, you're just made to feel welcome, and just the whole vibe of it, just that makes such a difference. And everybody's just really laid back, and other comics watching the other comics, and it was just a really nice, real camaraderie. And it's nice I hadn't seen Kai Humphries properly for ages, and just hanging out with him, and we went and queued and got something to eat, and then sat in the grass and just played. It was bloody lovely. So had a pint or two. So
we absolutely love 2000 Trees. Obviously, JoJo, we are conscious of time, but before we do let you get out of it, what have you got coming up that you can talk about? Obviously, you mentioned the Comedy Army stuff. Is there anything else you've got coming up you can talk about?
That's kind of it. I have put a lot of focus on the Comedy Army and organising that, but just gigging. I'm still so the Edinburgh Festival this year, I'm not doing a solo show, but I'm doing loads of spots. I'm emceeing a thing called the Provocateurs. I'm doing the Cabaret Pleasance Bar. I'm doing Best of Scottish Lake Club. And yeah, just then back doing glees and stands and frogs. I'm at Hot Water for the last week of August. So yeah, just wherever anybody wants me, I'll still go. I was going to go back and do Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne Comedy Festival next year. But no, I do genuinely, the Comedy Army, I think is my new focus in terms of I really want to still gig with the gigs that I like doing, and then run comedy workshops and hassle government for funding and raise money. But it's that, it's not me sacrificing my career to help the homeless. It literally is rediverting my skills into a sector that, if I can get funding to get paid to do it, then I've told enough jokes to stag nights that are coked off their tits. So it's time for a new audience.
Mr. Stevens, any more questions for our wonderful guest?
No, all I want to say, JoJo, is thank you so much. We've absolutely loved chatting to you tonight. Obviously, hopefully we can do it again sometime soon when you don't have to rush off, obviously, and get ready for a show, because it'd be great to have you back on again. But have you got any...
I'd love to not come on and bang on about my soapbox, but also bang on about my soapbox.
Do you have any plugs, social medias, websites, anything you want people to go and check out?
Yes, social media. I'm just JoJo Sutherland everywhere. So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on TikTok, and Facebook. Yeah, so all your usual places. I always forget, and I genuinely do. I go, oh yeah, I used to do that. I've got my Riches to Rags comedy special on Radio 4. So you can find that on BBC Sounds. That's Riches to Rags. So that was the award-winning Fringe show that got commissioned and explains a lot. And then on YouTube, my Growing Old Disgracefully, which is about the shagging in the tent in Glastonbury. That Growing Old Disgracefully is on YouTube, and I should, if Mason Stade gets his finger out of his fucking arse, he filmed my last year's Fringe show, which was I Wish You Were My Mum, Careful What You Wish For. So he does, I saw him yesterday, which is Tom Stade's son. So yes, he says he's going to, in fact, I have to send him something. But yes, that should be coming out at some point. So
wonderful. I look forward to seeing it.
Absolutely
brilliant.
JoJo,
guys, honestly, I've really loved this. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. I hope the show is phenomenal tonight. I'm sure you'll slay, as you always do.
Well, what can they do? Fucking fire me? No.
Incredible.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us tonight. I really appreciate it massively. Enjoy tonight, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.
See you later, guys. Take care.
Take care, JoJo. See you later.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.